and disruption. The mission of the Quarter 9495 Regional Chamber of Metro West is to be a dynamic regional business organization, striving to promote growth, prosperity, and quality of life for our members and communities. The purpose of the webinar is to help Chamber members with their professional and business development. Each webinar is designed to be interactive and presented by Chamber members who are experts in their fields. If you can please keep your video on, we like to see you. If not, no worries. But this just kind of helps the presenter to gauge their presentation, as this is also a networking event. If you want to put your contact information in the chat box so others can reach out to you, please do that as well. I want to thank Central One Federal Credit Union. Dave Kaiser is unfortunately not able to join us today, but Central One Federal Credit Union is proud to be the sponsor of this webinar. Central One is a financial cooperative 100% owned by its customers, which they refer to as members. Since its founding in 1952, Central One has grown to be one of the largest credit unions in Massachusetts, serving banking, insurance, and investment needs of people and businesses within Worcester, Middlesex, and Norfolk counties. Central One is a perennial award winner in the Worcester Telegram and Gazette's Best of Central Massachusetts Reader Survey, with their Oak Tree Property and Casualty Insurance Agency and their Central One Retirement and Investment Center affiliates, both being voted #1 in the insurance agency and financial planning categories this past year. Central One is pleased to sponsor this webinar series as part of their commitment to support education, financial literacy, and overall wellness among the people and businesses within the community. So now, enough about that, I'd like to introduce our speaker, Richard Bolsvert. But before I do that, a bit about Richard. I'd like to share information about Richard's company and about his background. So Richard Bolsvert is the president and owner of Elite Defense Group. Elite Defense Group is a Massachusetts-based professional security and management firm serving businesses, schools, and faith-based organizations. With a background in leadership, operations, and security planning, Richard specializes in helping organizations reduce risk, improve preparedness, and protect people, property, and reputation. His work integrates physical security measures, including access control, security personnel deployment, site assessments, and facility-specific safeguards with situational awareness training and emergency action planning. Richard's approach focuses on proactive, realistic security solutions that align with operational needs, legal considerations, and business continuity. Through Elite Defense Group, Richard works closely with business owners, executives, and community leaders to strengthen physical security, clarify response protocols, and build safer environments without fear-based tactics, prioritizing preparation, professionalism, and integrity. Thank you so much, and I'm going to turn it on over to Richard.
Thank you, Cynthia. I appreciate it. How are we doing, everybody? So before we get into the framework of planning, I want to start with something I've seen repeatedly when working with other organizations. Most leaders I meet generally care about safety. They care about their people, their customers, and their business. But when I ask one simple question, if something unexpected happened right now, what would your team actually do? Right? There's usually a pause in that moment because there's a lot of thinking going on, right? It's not because they don't care, but because no one has ever slowed down long enough to walk through it. I've worked with organizations when everything looked professional on the surface, strong leadership, good culture, successful operations. But when we begin talking about the real world scenarios, we discovered gaps that nobody ever realized existed. Sometimes it's as simple as no one knows who's responsible for calling 911, right? Is there a plan in place? Everybody has to have a job, and we'll get into emergency action planning shortly. employees are sure whether they should intervene or step away. Emergency plans exist, but only on paper, right? We have many businesses will have a book on a put together emergency action plan, but they don't give it out to everybody. They're not running these drills or going over things on how these should be executed. So what's important? There are failures, which are normal. Most organizations are not unprepared because they're careless. They're unprepared because safety has never been framed as a leadership strategy. Today's conversation, we'll talk about clarity, practical tools, and a way to think about safety that strengthens your organization rather than overwhelms it. Because preparedness is about expecting the worst. It's about leadership responsibility so your people know what to do when it makes the most sense. So we're going to come over here. Sorry, guys, I'm a security guy, not a tech guy. So security is a business decision, right? It impacts liability. It affects insurance claims, right? Insurance carriers evaluate risk controls. Security planning can impact premiums, coverage limits, and claim outcomes. Poor security practices may lead to denied claims and increased scrutiny. Documented training, risk assessments, and policies show proactive risk management. Many insurers, they now expect active threat preparedness and workplace safety plans. Security program isn't just protection, it's leverage during underwriting and claims. Insurance protects you after loss. Security reduces the chance of loss in the first place. Protects employees and customers. Safety is a leadership responsibility in an organization culture. Employees perform better and they feel safer. Customers and visitors unconsciously assess safety when entering a space. Prepared staff, not just security personnel, act as a force. Situational awareness training empowers everybody without creating fear, right? We're going to situational awareness. Now, can your staff, if you're inside a building, if you're a subcontractor that goes into buildings, is your staff aware of all the exits, right? If you guys sit here and think of your favorite restaurant right now and something that you frequent all the time, can you tell me every exit in that building? Right? There was the Pulse nightclub when the fire happened. Many people didn't see any other exit. And as human nature, we want to leave the same way we came in, right? And that's where everybody's leaving. So say there's 300-400 people inside this building and they're all trying to go through one door, right? We want to make sure everybody is aware of all of the exits so we're not crowding one area. Preserving operations and reputation. Security is business continuity. Many incidents don't just cause physical harm, but they disrupt operations and damage trust. Reputation loss often costs more than incident itself. Prepared organizations never foster and maintain confidence from stakeholders. Security planning supports continuity, evacuation plans, communication protocols, leadership roles. A strong security posture signals professionalism and responsibility to partners and clients. The goal isn't just surviving an incident, it's protecting the organization's future. Legal authority, security is a leadership responsibility, right? Oh, sorry. Now, sorry, guys. The duty of care remains with business ownership. Security vendors support, they don't replace responsibility. Liability depends on reasonable preparedness, right? So, is your business prepared? Do you have emergency action plans? Do you have the proper security teams? Do you have the proper security planning? Now, if you use a big box security company, right? Everybody uses them. They have a reputation, and there's always somebody that's available to be inside your business. Now, the legality part is if somebody comes into your facility and wants to cause harm, and they do cause harm, somebody is injured, somebody is worse than that. Now, in the legal aspect, they're going to look at you and say, what was your emergency action plan? What did your security teams have in place? What was the training that your security team had? Now, if you're you're outsourcing a security company, you need to make sure that they have all of this training, which the big box companies, they're grabbing a younger person or somebody with less experience. They're giving them a t-shirt and keys to your building, and that is your security. Would they do anything to protect your business if it was to ever happen? Documentation demonstrates due diligence, right? You want to document everything you're doing to prepare your building for any security breaches, right? Leadership decisions define exposure. Now, the myths. Let me get this for you. Sorry. So hiring security transfers liability. In reality, owners retain responsibility. No incidents means low risk. In reality, foreseeable risk still matters legally. The myth, insurance will cover everything. Nope. In reality, preparedness and documentation matter. Another myth is security equals guards and cameras. In reality, leadership planning drives protection. I've met with many organizations that state, we have a state-of-the-art security system. Security cameras should be called evidence cameras because they're not going to stop anything, right? They're going to show things that happened after the fact. Guys, let me switch my camera because I look like a ghost to you guys. Is that better? So having a security guard, right? Having somebody that's trained, you're bringing in businesses that are training regularly. We're bringing in businesses that have a paper trail of training, right? And they're presenting this paper trail to you. My team is first aid certified. They're able to carry firearms. They're able to do the proper assessments of your building and know your layout of your building. You're bringing these people in here to protect not only yourself, your employees, and your building, right? So we can't bring these other guards in. And I've had a student come in and she called down to the office where the security was and said, "Hey, I just fired somebody and I'm very nervous. Could you walk me to my car?" And they said, "That's not my job." Right? Which that's pretty scary, right? You hire a security team to make sure that your people are safe. And for them to tell you that it's not their job, it is their job, right? When security becomes a liability issue, lack of planning increases exposure. Okay? We're exposing ourselves in many aspects, and some of them we may not think we're actually exposing ourselves. It could be something very minimal. Informal procedures fail under stress. So if you have a plan in place that you think, hey, this is it. Our new hires receive this book. This is our safety handbook. Can you tell me how many people read that book? Right? But it's usually just looked at, um, and that's it. They'll sign it and it gets tossed in a pile or in the trash. So having these procedures and going over things, these are our exits. This is what we're implementing. A lot of companies will implement. I will tell you a story on a pharmaceutical company shortly, but a lot of companies badges, right? We think we're safe with the badges. Now, say you fire somebody, you have 100 people inside your office building. You let somebody go, but not many people know that that person was fired. Now that person comes in angry. Now they're going to walk in and they know how everything works inside that building. They're going to tail right behind somebody and they're going to be inside the building. Right? So telling our staff, listen, if you're coming in, you badge, you make sure nobody comes behind you. Right? Everybody needs to use their badge. It's not we badge in and 7 people walk behind this person, because you never know who's coming in the building. Documentation matters, right? Reporting. If we see something that's out of the ordinary, if a door's not locking, if people are propping open doors just to run out for a second, right? You're opening yourself to huge liability. Going with that is, I went into a very well-known building, and I noticed 2 doors propped open. And I started walking away. The main door was locked. I seen somebody with a high vis vest on. It was a large factory. And I went up to the worker and I said, "Do you guys have an office here?" And he said, "Yeah, follow me." He badged in. He opened the door. He walked me through the facility and had me meet with the general manager. I talked with the general manager for a little while. He told me that they had very strong security measures. And I said, okay. I said, "Do you have security personnel?" He said, "Yes, we have security personnel." I took a look around. I didn't see any security personnel, right? I was somebody who just walked in. And we spoke for a little bit. And then he said that basically I could see myself out, and he walked the opposite way. And I had full access to go back into the building, or I could walk outside the door, right? This is the stuff we need to be aware of, and it's stuff that we don't think of, right? Situational awareness is huge. If any of you were in a position like this, you walk that person right to the door and make sure they're out the door and your door is locked again. Trainings. A lot of businesses lack in that aspect. We look at security as, it's a box to check. We have some plans in place. We're good to go. OSHA requirements. A lot of companies are going to the bare minimum just so it pleases the employee. But we need to make sure that it's protecting the business and the employee, right? So we're doing trainings maybe once a month on different subjects. Sending out emails and making people sign them, that doors need to be locked. They're not to be ajarred, right? And there should be repercussions to this. Making sure, hey, we're doing a CPR class, because security is huge, but a lot of things in workplace is medicals, right? So we want people to be able to, if somebody goes down, we want people to be able to keep this person alive until somebody shows up, right? So different trainings, and there's so many different trainings that are offered that can make sure that you're building a safe environment. Now to the emergency action plans. How many of you can say that you have a solid emergency action plan? Now, an emergency action plan in the court of law, if something happens, any one of these medical emergencies, fire and evacuation, workplace violence, severe weather, lockdown and shelter in place, right? This is what your emergency plan should be holding. Because if any one of these happen and somebody brings you to court and they're going to say, where's your emergency action plan? And if you say what my daughter's previous school said, we're still working on it. Well, guess what? In the court of law, they want to point a finger at somebody, and it's going to be you, right? It's going to be the board. It's going to be the CEO. It's going to be the president. When Parkland and Uvalde happened, the superintendent and the principal for both schools were brought up on federal charges of neglect. Right? You don't want that for your business, right? So, a medical emergency, we're building a plan on what we do for a medical emergency. There's companies that outsource this, right? And build you a whole plan. They walk through the building, they get you an exact plan, and they build this out for you. So there's no gaps. It's legally sound. But your medical emergencies, your fire and evacuation, workplace violence, right? I mean, there's a lot of mental health issues going on. If we fire somebody, now we're putting inside our emergency action plan, we're putting precautions prior to. We're not leaving, if it's a factory, there's no air conditioning, there's fans, it's hot in there. We're opening up some of the garage doors that the trucks back into. We're opening those up 4 or 5 feet just to allow some airflow to go through. Now, somebody can come right in there. They know that you guys are opening these doors daily because it's 95 to 110 degrees outside, let alone what it is inside your building. Propping open doors to get some air in. This stuff has to be stopped. Severe weather, right? I mean, we live in Massachusetts. Our severe weather is this great snow that we've been getting. You guys enjoying that snow? It's great, right? Every time I wake up, I tell myself I want to go south. Now, we want to work on lockdown and shelter in place. Guys, it's 2026. We have a lot of mass shooter events. It's a very sad situation, but as I tell everybody, they're not going anywhere. Regardless of laws or anything like that, they're not going anywhere. Look at what just happened in Canada. It's very difficult to purchase a firearm in Canada. It's very difficult to even obtain one. And there was somebody that went in there into a school. 10 people had died and 25 people were injured. This has just happened yesterday. Right? Now, a lot of buildings are working on access control, right? We have to either badge in if you're an employee, or you have to ring a bell, and there should be a camera there. And the person that the secretary or whoever is responsible for letting people in, they should be asking this person, who are you? Why do you need to be in here? Right? If any of you guys have grandchildren or children in school, we all know that the schools have the little boxes, right? We got to ring the buzzer and ask yourself, how many times have they asked you who you are? Right? So a quick story, my daughter was attending a school, and my wife told me, she's like, every time I go there, I ring the bell, they never ask who I am. So I was working rather local, and I told her my daughter had an appointment coming up, I would go. And I went. I had my personal vehicle with me. I pulled right up to the school at a good rate of speed. It was about this time of year, and they just celebrated the 100th day of school. And I threw my hood on. I went over, I pushed the button, I had a baseball cap on, and I put my head down. I rang the bell, they buzzed me right in. I beelined it with my hat and my hood on, with my head down, and I could just see the secretary's face because they're the first person that you see in virtually any building. And when I came through the doorway, I took my hood off and said, I'm here to dismiss my daughter. And she said, okay. She said, do you have an ID? Sure. And I asked her, I said, did you see me out there? And she said, well, I had to take a double take. And I said, nope, you took a double take when I was 20 feet away from you. Okay. The principal came out and I asked him if I could see their emergency action plan. Mind you, this is over 100 days into school. And he said, we're still working on it. That day, I removed my daughter from that school and put her into a new school. Because the lack of planning and the disregard for safety of the staff and the students didn't sit well with me, right? And this is the stuff that we really need to focus on and look into. So why most plans fail? The employees don't know their role, right? And this is why it's so important to be showing them the emergency action plans. This should be something that's digitally sent to them so they can review it and look at it, right? Now, if there's an emergency, there should be a plan in place inside your facility. Who's responsible for calling 911? That's the first one. Are our doors secure? If we're a smaller business and we have cash and we have expensive merchandise, what's in front of our doors? Is it a completely see-through glass door? We should be putting some 3M one-way tint on that window, right? So people can't see in. You can see out perfectly fine. I have that right on my office door. It works great, right? But you don't want people to be able to see what's in there because it gets appetizing for a criminal. No trainings or drills. Now, in the state of Massachusetts, I'm gonna use schools for instance, but this is for everybody, right? Every business, every large business does fire drills. There is a fire drill. Fire drills are mandated 4 to 5 times a year in the state of Massachusetts. Active shooter drills are not mandated, they're recommended. Right? Now, if we're not pursuing trainings that will help in a situation like this, as in fires, active shooter drills, medicals, this all should be put into a plan and they should be executed. And yes, in bigger facilities, this is a little more difficult, but it is necessary, because if you have all these employees and all of a sudden something happens and they have no idea what to do, it's going to be chaos. Now, your mind can only go where it has gone before. So if there is no training, you will collapse. Put it this way. If you were driving on the highway, you've seen a 5-car pileup, you weren't wearing your seatbelt, you're not really a seatbelt person, and you're driving on the highway, you see this 5-car pileup, you're white knuckling, and you're bracing for impact. Are you going to put your seatbelt on? No, you're not, right? But if you're driving down the highway every day to and from work, and you're just nonstop buckling and unbuckling your seatbelt, nonstop to and from work, and that's all you do. If that happens, you're most likely going to buckle your seatbelt because you built that into your muscle memory, right? So fire drills are virtually muscle memory because you're doing it 5 times a year. I know we all remember fire drills, right? They all would, the fire department, they'd set everything off and everybody knew what to do, single file line. The teacher would grab the the little blue box. I never knew what was in there, but she'd always grab a little blue box and a attendance sheet. We'd shut the lights off, we'd close the door, and we'd all walk out. And I'd stand next to my friend Jimmy. I always knew that he had Skittles in his pocket, and that was the best time, right? But we all knew what to do. Now, in a workplace violence incident or an active shooter incident, you're now looking at chaos. Somebody hears that sound, you freeze, right? And this is why training and drills are so important. We don't, if things are too complex or generic, right? You don't want to make it too difficult. It's a simple drill, but you don't want it to be a cookie cutter thing either, right? Because the cookie cutter drills, there's many companies out there that teach all of this, and it's virtually the same thing. And you want something that's built specifically for your business, right? People come in and they teach schools, and they teach corporations, and they teach small business, but they give them the same exact layout, right? Things need to be tailored for you specifically, because that's the only way that you guys are going to ensure safety. And then again, we touch base on this, not reviewed regularly. We need to be going over this. There needs to be leadership planning. Leadership needs to have the biggest role in making sure that the building and the people are safe, right? Situational awareness. Recognizing early warning signs. You're inside this building every single day. If you see somebody that's coming in distraught, right, we want to be aware of that. Now, today's day and age, we have these, right? Situational awareness goes out the window when you have that 3-inch screen in front of you. So it doesn't matter if you're a 110-pound person or you're a 350-pound person. If that 110-pound person is walking down and their head is on a swivel, they're looking around, they're aware of their surroundings, they don't have a worry. But if that 350-pound person is walking and they're just like this, they're an easy victim, right? And using situational awareness shouldn't just be in the workplace. You should be practicing this everywhere you go, right? You go to a restaurant, you have an exit where the entrance that you walked in, that's an exit. Nowadays, they have the outdoor seating, and they have usually a door that says if you go through this door, an alarm will sound. But also the kitchen, right? The kitchen, nobody's going to think of that. But if you start utilizing this stuff, now in your mind, I'm going out the kitchen if something happens, because there's a door where they get their deliveries, and nobody's going to come through this area. I know I'm getting out of here, and I'm getting out of harm's way. So preventing escalation, right? Do we have somebody in place, somebody in HR that your staff is comfortable to be able to go and talk about something? Like, hey, John has been acting very weird lately. That I've seen some posts. I'm friends with him on social media. I've seen some posts that really aren't settling with me. Do we think we could have a talk, or you guys could have a talk with him, and bring this person in, and maybe they're having something going on at home. But being more engaged with our employees and knowing who's in our buildings. Making better decisions under stress. This goes with planning, right? If we're not training and we're not planning, you're not going to make a decision under stress. I can almost guarantee every one of us here have, at one point or another, have gotten a phone call and it scared us. Somebody was in a car accident. Somebody passed away. You name it. If it's an emotional situation, and say you have to sit there and you have to call 911. right? You're going to pace back and forth, and you're not even going to remember that number to 911 because your mind in a situation like that is in fight or flight mode, and you're instantly going to shut down. So this is why we in our plannings we're designating somebody to call 911. This is your job. If something happens, you call 911. Knowing what to report, make it known to your staff. Hey, if somebody's acting off, if they're missing work, if they're saying some odd things during break time or lunch, kind of bring it to the attention. And it's not the fact of we're gonna reprimand this person. It's the fact of what's going on, right? Again, mental health is huge in 2026, right? Families are falling apart. People may not think that they're up to the challenge on a project that they're doing. We need to make sure that we're keeping a close eye on everybody that we're working with. It sounds like a large task, but it's not like we're bringing everybody in one by one, like, hey, how you doing, right? And having counseling sessions. But we want to have an open ear, and we want to make sure that there's somebody there, and our staff knows, hey, there's somebody here that we can talk to, and it's confidential, right? We want to make sure that people are comfortable to be able to come to a specific person and talk to them, not as a counselor, like just as an ear. And we want to make sure, like, hey, are you okay to do this, right? There's FMLA. Give them options, right? Because some people are like, I can't miss work. I'm going through all of this, but I can't miss work. If somebody's in a situation like this, they're not being productive in the workplace, and we don't want somebody to end up losing their mind inside the workplace, right? And causing some sort of workplace violence or whatever it may be. Okay. So what you can do today, review your current procedures, right? If you have any, you want to review your procedures. Are they up to par? Do we have a plan if there's a fire? Do we have designated people to have specific jobs, calling 911? Do we have a evacuation team? I met with a large bank out in Waltham, and we met with their leadership teams beforehand, and we explained to them that they need this stuff into place, right? You need to have the person that calls 911. You need to have a team of, okay, what is our plans if something were to happen? Do we have a perfect evacuation plan? Are we fully labeled on every floor of a fire escape route? We need to make sure that this stuff is thought about, and it's overlooked quite often. But we always think of fires, but what if an active shooter came in? Do we have safe rooms? Do we have trauma kits? Do we have tourniquets? Are our people trained for this? So say something happens inside a large building and somebody comes in and starts shooting. There's 100 people on one floor. 50 people go down, 50 people get out. Those 50 people that got out left in a hurry. This place is, your business is going to be red taped, meaning you're not allowed in there for a minimum of 4 to 6 weeks. Now, all these people forget their keys, their laptops, their purses, whatever it may be, and they can't get them for 4 to 6 weeks. Now, inside your emergency action plan, you need to put in, if our building is not accessible, how are we going to continue our procedures? If you send out, if you're a merchandise store that sells t-shirts, right? How are we going to continue to sell t-shirts if we don't have our building and we don't have our computers? right? We need to have a plan in place. Okay, we have um, we have another place that we can go to, another building, and we can set up shop there until everything is cleared. But now you got to ask yourself, are people going to return to work after seeing something like this? Right? How many of you would return to work after having a situation like this? Right? Um, Identify incident leadership. I kind of just touched base on that. We want to make sure our leadership, um, our managers, our depending on what you do, the superintendents, the managers, the CEOs, what is their role in the day to day protecting the building, right? Train reporting expectations. So we're training, and when we train, we're having people sign in. It's saying what we're training for. This is a paper trail. This is what's going to show you guys inside the court of law that, okay, we have all of this training done. We do this once a month. We in a different topic. We have all of these people signed in, and they are well aware of what they need to do. This is huge in the court of law, because if you're not holding any types of trainings, and most of these should be in person, we all know a lot of videos are used, right? Hey, you guys need to watch this video. I'm going to send it to you. Watch this video, and your training will be complete, right? Nobody's watching that video. They're putting it in the background, letting it play, and it's writing it. So having somebody come in and actually do the training is going to be a lot more effective in the court of law. Conducting tabletop drills, depending on your business, right? A tabletop exercise. You're going over floor plans of your building, right? Hey, this is our escape routes. If you're on the second floor, you're going to go here. If you're on this side of the second floor, you're going to come down this way. These are our main exits. This is a safe room. This is where we keep our AED. This is where we keep our trauma kits, right? The reason why I keep saying trauma kits, AED, tourniquets, and making sure people are trained in this, if you have a violent incident inside your building and you call 911, the police are going to come. And let me remind you that average police response time is 8 to 12 minutes in Massachusetts. Nationwide, it's 23 minutes. And that just depends on where you live or where your business is located. Okay? If you live in a smaller town and it's a little later in the day, you may have 2 officers. So it could take longer. Now, your responsibility as a business owner is to have some sort of safe room, have these necessities on hand, because you need to mitigate the situation while waiting for EMS, because EMS is not allowed to enter your building until the building is cleared by the police. They will stay back until it's cleared, and then they will proceed. And that's a scary thought. If you guys remember the Aurora, Colorado shooting inside the movie theater, right? It was absolute chaos. And the police were taking people out from the back of the movie theater, okay? And the ambulances couldn't get to them. And the police started, which is against all police rules, they called in to see if they could start transporting people, because people were going to die, right? And the sad reality in this is, if there's not proper planning, to be blunt, people are going to die. And that's what we're trying to stop. We need to make sure that our buildings and our small businesses, everything is safe, right? We're making ourselves, we're not trying to build fortresses. We're not trying to have, guys out there with rifles in front of the businesses. but we're really looking at it as, you know, our business is ready and we're a hard target, right? We are a hard target. Um, Document improvements. We're looking to improve our documents every day. There could be something that comes up today that you take a look around and you go, that really doesn't look safe, right? And that doesn't mean a door locked or anything like that. That could be a sign that's hanging up that really wasn't put up well, and it could fall on somebody and injure somebody, right? We want to make sure that we're protecting ourselves in all aspects of the legal world. Now, hold on one second. So I just want to give you guys a quick story. Um, you know, me and my partner, we infiltrated a pharmaceutical company, and the only people that knew that we were going there was the CEO and the security. And we told him that we would give him a call when we were complete with our infiltration. He said, okay. So my guy dresses up, suit and tie. He has a clipboard under one arm. He has 2 Dunkin' Donuts coffees and a briefcase. And everything going into this building is a badge. You got to walk through the front door with a badge. You walk through the swinging gates with a badge. And going into the elevator, you need to badge to go to the floor you're going to. Now, he walked in. There was a cluster of people. He followed them. He walked right through the front doors. No problem. There was a bunch of people. He was dressed to impress. And he walked in. He followed right behind somebody going through the swinging gates that had to be badged. And he got to the elevator. Now it's getting tricky. So he drops a coffee right in front of the elevator. He bends down. Obviously, his hands are full. He bends down to go pick it up, start to pick it up. And one of the employees inside the building said, "Don't worry about it. We'll call maintenance. They'll clean it here." And they kept the door open for him in the elevator. And he looked over. He knew he needed to go to the 3rd floor. Somebody already scanned for 3rd floor. And he pretended to reach in his pocket for his badge. And he goes, "Oh, I'm going to 3rd floor." They said, "Perfect." He walked up to the 3rd floor. This is where the scientists are, working on medications. And this was a half wall, and it was glass all up top. And he just walked back and forth, writing on his clipboard, absolutely nothing. One of the guys inside the room opened up the door. My guy introduced himself. "Hi, how you doing? I'm so and so." And the employee walked out. My guy walked in. My guy walked out back, walked up the stairs, sat in the CEO's office. While eating the CEO's banana, he called the CEO. And the CEO said, "Why are you calling me from my desk?" He said, "It took us 6 minutes." 6 minutes infiltrating what they thought was a completely locked down business. Right? That's concerning. And the whole thing on this is, do we have an emergency action plan? Do we have the proper security planning? Right? And that security planning goes beyond, a lot of companies will sit there and say, "We have cameras." Cameras are not security. They're evidence. Okay? They are for after the fact. Having trained personnel, I took my wife. She's never had Antonio's pizza. I know some of you guys have had Antonio's pizza before. Absolutely delicious, right? You need to have it. It's in Worcester. They were out in UMass Amherst. They're out there too. But I took my wife to go to Antonio's Pizza one day for lunch, and they have about 37 different kinds of pizza. You want macaroni and cheese on your pizza? They got you. Okay. So we were sitting down and we seen one of the security guards walk over and fill up a cup of water. And he had a big box company security shirt on, and he filled it up and he walked out, and he was smoking marijuana walking back to his post. Okay. And I looked at my wife and I said, that's scary. And she was like, I totally agree. And my biggest concern is, a bank hiring a company thinking that they're going to be able to protect their bank and their people. What do you think that person would do if two masked men ran up to them and said, get out of our way? Nothing, right? You're paying money for somebody to protect your business and thinking they're a deterrent. Today's day and age in 2026, a t-shirt and a walkie-talkie is not a deterrent, right? We look at this whole world and people don't even respect police officers. Do you think that they're going to respect somebody that has a t-shirt and some keys telling you you can't do that? Right? That those days are over. So really buckling down and looking at your planning of security is going to be the most crucial thing that you can do for your business. That is my presentation. Does anybody have any questions? Can I take some questions, Carlene? Cynthia?
We do. We have about 6 or 7 more minutes. There are a couple of questions in the chat here. It looks like we have a question about how far do you actually service? And the other question I see in the chat, she's asking about lockdown units for patients in nursing homes or similar facilities. So 2 questions here in the chat, and there might be other ones coming through.
No, beautiful. So we travel all over New England, and we also offer security coaching after the fact, which actually deters from having a director of security that you're paying $120,000 to $150,000 a year. We actually will go and you send us your concerns after the fact. If that's the coaching aspect, you send us the concerns and we will go on a Zoom call with you and your leadership, and we will address those concerns so they can fix it. And we do that in tiers. But security wise, physical security, we travel all over New England. We're licensed and insured in all the New England states. And going with the nursing home, I actually just visited a nursing home, trying to speak with them about their security personnel and their training, because again, that's a very soft target, right? And we do work on lockdown procedures, and obviously different nursing homes are set up in different ways. So we'd go in, we could do a physical risk assessment, a vulnerability assessment, and we can come up with a plan on how to actually sit there and make sure that the staff and the patients and the residents are safe.
Fantastic. We have time for maybe just a couple more questions. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to ask Richard? I see your contact information is here if anyone would like any follow-up.
Yep, you guys can reach out anytime via email or phone, and we'd definitely be glad to help. Whatever security needs, questions, we're definitely here, and we can definitely give you the best insight possible.
That's great. Thank you so much for today. It was so interesting and so relevant for all of us, right? So really appreciate it today, Richard. I just want to let everyone know about our next webinar. That's going to be on Thursday, March 12th. And that is on writing business messages that connect, presented by Allison Chisholm, founder of Choice Words Chisholm and Company. So please register to join us for that. And I want to thank you all for coming. You will receive an email from Carlene in the coming days with a survey, and we do like to get that information from you. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Stay safe, everybody.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.